Imagine losing everything in a single afternoon. Your home, your car, and even the right to hold your children, all because the person you trusted most used his power to erase you. That was Elena's reality. But while Julian thought he'd left her with nothing but $300, he forgot one thing. He couldn't take her talent. If you believe that no one should ever be counted out, hit that like button right now. And if you're ready for a story about the ultimate comeback, subscribe to our channel. We bring you these unforgettable dramas because everyone deserves to see that karma always finds its way home. You won't believe the look on Julian's face when he finally sees what he threw away. The gavel didn't sound like justice. It sounded like a guillotine. The court awards full custody of the children and all marital assets, including the residence and vehicles, to Mr. Julian Vance, the judge intoned. Elena felt the air leave her lungs. She looked across the mahogany table at Julian. He didn't look triumphant. He looked bored, as if he were simply closing a minor real estate deal. He leaned over and whispered, "I told you, Elena. Without me, you're just a girl with a high school diploma and a spatula. Good luck in the real world." 20 minutes later, Elena stood on the sidewalk with a single suitcase and a bus pass. Julian drove past her in the SUV they'd bought together, Leo and Mia's faces pressed against the rear window, their small hands tapping on the glass. Julian didn't even look at her. He just accelerated, leaving her in a cloud of exhaust. She checked her bank account at a nearby ATM, $300. That was it. Julian's lawyers had frozen the joint accounts weeks ago, claiming suspicious activity. She had no home, no transportation, and a heart that felt like it had been put through a meat grinder. She spent the first 3 nights in a women's shelter, the sound of distant sobbing keeping her awake. On the 4th day, she started walking. She walked until her feet bled, ending up in a coastal industrial district where the city's scrap went to die. That's where she met Big Sal. He was hauling a rusted-out 1982 Grumman Olson truck toward the crusher. It was a wreck. The engine was missing, the windows were shattered, and it smelled of 30 years of neglect. "Hey," Elena shouted, running toward the crane. "Stop. What are you doing with that?" Sal climbed out of the cab. "It's scrap, lady. Making room for the new stuff." "What?" "I have $300, Elena said, her voice trembling. "And I know how to cook better than anyone in this city. If you give me that truck and let me park it in the corner of your lot, I'll give you half of everything I make for a year." Sal looked at the truck, then back at the woman who looked like she'd been through a war. "Half? Kid, you won't make $10 in that heap. It doesn't even have a stove." "I don't need a stove yet," Elena said, her eyes flashing with a fire Sal hadn't seen in a long time. "I just need a door that locks." Sal went quiet. He saw the desperation, but beneath it, he saw a steel spine. "Keep your 300, he grunted. "You'll need it for paint. But if I catch you slacking, the crusher is still waiting." Elena moved into the truck that night. Using her remaining money, she bought a second-hand propane burner, a massive cast-iron skillet, and 20 pounds of brisket. She spent the night scrubbing the interior until her knuckles were raw. As the sun rose over the junkyard, the smell of slow-braised beef began to waft through the industrial park. It was a smell of hope, of spices Julian always hated, of a woman coming back to life. But as Elena served her first taco to a hungry mechanic, she didn't know that Julian had already filed a restraining order, moving the kids 3 states away to protect them from her unstable lifestyle. Just as Elena's business begins to gain a tiny bit of traction, a black sedan pulls into the junkyard. It's not Julian, it's a private investigator holding a camera, and he's just taken a photo of Elena's illegal living conditions. The flash of the camera felt like a physical blow. Elena shielded her eyes, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Who are you?" she demanded, stepping off the truck's metal landing. The man in the suit didn't answer. He simply got back into his car and sped away. Elena knew exactly what that was. Julian wasn't satisfied with taking her life. He wanted to ensure she could never build a new one. Those photos would be used in court to prove she was an unfit mother, living in a garbage heap. "Problems?" Sal asked, walking over with a wrench in his hand. "Julian," Elena whispered. "He's never going to let me go, Sal. He wants me to disappear." Sal spat on the ground. "Then don't disappear. Get louder." For the next 6 months, Elena lived on 4 hours of sleep. By day, she served junkyard tacos, shredded brisket with a habanero peach glaze that made the local dockworkers line up around the block. By night, she was a mechanic's apprentice. Sal taught her how to wire a generator, how to patch a fuel line, and how to make that old Grumman roar. She saved every penny. She didn't buy new clothes. She wore Sal's old flannels. She didn't go out. She studied food chemistry by candlelight. She was a woman possessed. The turning point came when a local food blogger, lost in the industrial district, followed the scent of her midnight mojo sauce. He posted a photo of the Phoenix truck, as the locals had started calling it, praising the food as Michelin star quality in a scrap metal wrapper. Suddenly, the junkyard wasn't big enough. Elena took a leap. She used her savings to lease a spot in the city's trendy downtown plaza. On opening day, the line stretched for 3 blocks. Elena stood in the kitchen, her hands moving with a grace she'd forgotten she possessed. She wasn't just cooking, she was exorcising Julian from her soul. Every spice was a memory of his criticism. Every perfectly seared steak was a rebuttal to his claim that she was nothing. But success brought a different kind of heat. One evening, a woman in a designer dress approached the window. It was Clara, Julian's new girlfriend. She looked at Elena with a mixture of pity and smugness. "Julian wanted me to drop this off," Clara said, sliding a legal envelope across the counter. "He's filing for a permanent termination of parental rights. He says the kids don't even remember you, Elena. They call me Mom now." Elena's hand gripped the counter so hard her knuckles turned white. "Get off my truck, Clara." "Just sign it," Clara sighed. "You have your little hobby now. Let the children have a real family. Julian is about to be named Man of the Year by the City Council. Do you really want to drag them through a scandal?" Clara walked away, leaving the envelope on the stainless steel. Elena opened it. Inside wasn't just the legal filing. There was a photo of Leo and Mia at a gala, looking stiff, unhappy, and heartbreakingly grown up. That night, Elena didn't cry. She sat in the dark of her truck and realized that being successful wasn't enough. She had to be undeniable. She picked up her phone and called the producer of The Final Plate, the biggest culinary reality show in the country, who had been emailing her for weeks. "I'm in," Elena said. "But I have one condition. The finale has to be filmed live in my hometown." The show becomes a national sensation, and Elena makes it to the final 2. But as the live finale begins in the city center, Julian is sitting in the front row as the guest of honor, unaware that the mystery chef he's about to judge is the woman he tried to destroy. The lights of the outdoor stage were blinding. Thousands of people packed the plaza, the very spot where Elena had once stood with $300 and a dream. Backstage, Elena took a deep breath. She was wearing a sleek, professional chef's coat. Her hair was perfectly styled, but she still had the same fire in her eyes. The show's host, a legendary chef known for his cruelty, stood at the podium. "Today, our finalists must create a dish that represents home," the host announced. "And to help us judge, we have a pillar of our community, the man of the hour, Mr. Julian Vance." Julian stood up, waving to the crowd with his rehearsed, plastic smile. He looked like the picture of success. He hadn't seen the contestants yet. They were hidden behind frosted glass stations. Elena began to cook. She didn't make something French or fancy. She made the junkyard special, the brisket that had saved her life, elevated with a red wine reduction and a truffle-infused polenta. As she worked, the cameras caught every detail. The commentators spoke about her mysterious rise and how she had started with literally nothing in a scrapyard. Julian sat at the judging table, sipping sparkling water. He leaned over to the host. "I'm looking for refinement. I hope this street food person understands that home isn't just about grease, it's about elegance." The time was up. Elena's competitor, a classically trained chef from New York, presented a delicate lobster bisque. Julian loved it, giving it a 9 out of 10. Then, it was Elena's turn. She walked out from behind the glass, carrying her plate. The crowd went silent. Julian's smile didn't just fade, it disintegrated. He physically recoiled, his hand trembling as he reached for his glass. "Elena," he whispered, the microphone catching his shock. "Chef Vance to you," Elena said, her voice steady and echoing through the plaza speakers. She placed the dish in front of him. "You once told me that without you, I was just a girl with a spatula. Today, I'm a woman who built an empire out of the scraps you threw away. Taste it, Julian. Taste the nothing you left me with." The cameras zoomed in on Julian's face. He was trapped. If he insulted the food, he He would look like a spiteful ex-husband in front of millions of viewers. If he praised it, he was admitting she had won. He took a bite. The flavors exploded: the heat, the richness, the years of struggle and triumph. It was the best thing he had ever tasted, and it tasted like his own defeat. It's exceptional," Julian stammered, his face turning a blotchy red. The host looked at the scores. "The winner of the final plate and the recipient of the $1 million grand prize is Elena Vance." The crowd erupted. But as the confetti fell, Elena saw something that made her heart stop. At the edge of the VIP section, Sal was standing with Leo and Mia. They had seen everything. They were crying, trying to push past the security guards to get to their mother. Julian saw them too. His face twisted. He realized his Man of the Year image was about to be shattered if the truth of his cruelty came out on live TV. He leaned in close to Elena, his voice a venomous hiss. "You think this money changes anything? I still have the best lawyers. I'll tie you up in court until these kids are 30. You'll never be their mother again." Julian grabs Mia's arm to pull her away, but a man in a dark suit steps forward and places a hand on Julian's shoulder. "Mr. Vance, I'm from the state attorney's office. We've been looking into your suspicious activity reports on your ex-wife's accounts. It seems the only person committing fraud was you." The silence that followed was heavy. The cameras were still rolling, broadcasting Julian's panicked expression to every screen in the country. "Fraud?" Julian laughed nervously, looking at the lens. "This is a misunderstanding. A stunt for the show." The investigator didn't blink. "We have the digital trail, Julian. You didn't just freeze those accounts. You transferred marital funds into offshore shells before the divorce was even filed. That's a felony. And we have a witness." From the side of the stage, Clara stepped forward. She wasn't wearing her designer dress. She looked tired, her eyes red from crying. She looked at Elena with a nod of profound apology. "He told me he'd take care of me if I helped him hide the paperwork," Clara told the investigator, her voice amplified by the stage mics. "But after seeing what he did to those kids, I couldn't do it anymore. I have the drive with the original ledgers." Julian's world collapsed in real time. The security guards who were once protecting him now stood aside as the investigator led him away in handcuffs. The crowd, which had once cheered for him, now erupted in a chorus of boos. Elena didn't watch him go. She didn't need to. She jumped off the stage, her boots hitting the pavement with a solid thud. "Mom!" Leo and Mia broke free from the crowd, sprinting toward her. Elena collapsed to her knees, gathering them into her arms. She buried her face in their hair, smelling the scent of childhood and home. "I'm here," she sobbed. "I'm never leaving again. I promise." Sal stood over them, his eyes misty. He handed Elena a set of keys. "What are these?" she asked, wiping her eyes. "The deed to the old junkyard," Sal said. "I'm retiring. You've turned that place into a landmark, Elena. It's yours. Build your restaurant there. Build your home there." 1 year later, the Phoenix Bistro was the most sought-after reservation in the state. Built on the site of the old junkyard, it was a stunning glass and steel structure that incorporated the original 1982 Grumman truck as a permanent centerpiece in the dining room. Elena stood in the kitchen, watching Leo and Mia do their homework at a table near the prep station. They were happy, healthy, and finally free. Julian was serving a 10-year sentence for wire fraud and perjury. He was a memory, a shadow that no longer had power over them. Elena walked to the front of the restaurant, where a small plaque was mounted by the door. It didn't list her awards or her TV win. It simply had a photo of a rusted truck and the words, "Everything you need to rebuild is already inside you. All it takes is a spark and the courage to keep the fire burning." She looked out at the sunset, the same sun that had once risen over her when she had nothing but $300 and a dream. She smiled, picked up her spatula, and went back to work. The end.